This is One on One. We're here at the 24th annual Cohn-Resnick Foundation golf event, the Cohn-Resnick Cares event. We're honored to be here with Joe Torre, who is the co-founder of the Joe Torre Safe at Home Foundation. You may recognize him. How many years did you do the Yankees thing?
The Yankees thing?
Yeah, you were the boss.
I was the boss there for 12 years.
You loved that gig?
You know, I did, Steve, most of the time. I mean, the last 2 or 3 years were a little trying because I think it got to the point where the Yankees didn't know how to say goodbye, and neither did I. You know, it became, I remember Don Mattingly walked in my office. He was one of my coaches. And we won a game, and I wasn't happy. You know, and he just noticed a great deal of stress on my face. And it just got to the point where they really wanted me to leave, and they were finding ways to criticize what I was doing, and it got me a little defensive, and it just wasn't comfortable.
One thing you've become very comfortable talking about, well, at least from my perspective, we've been at this event, Joe's been so incredibly supportive of this event. He's talking about the victims of domestic violence and the Joe Torre Safe at Home Foundation. I shouldn't say you're comfortable talking about it, but you made such a difference in talking about it. Could you talk about how that came about and why you started this foundation, co-founded it, and the difference it's made, and also the event?
Well, I mean, it's a long story, but let me see if I can give you a little bit of
It's a powerful story.
Sure, yeah, it is a powerful story. I mean, first of all, I grew up being very nervous about going to school, played hooky a lot, afraid I wouldn't know the work, afraid to raise my hand, and all those feelings of insecurity. In fact, in high school, I didn't even go out for my, as a freshman, didn't even go out for the baseball team because I didn't know if I could make it. And I thought, growing up, and really all the way through my playing career, which people I know find hard to believe, is I had all these feelings of insecurity. And it really wasn't until the middle 90s, right before I came to work for the Yankees, that I had gone to a symposium with my wife, who was pregnant with our daughter, Allie. I mean, our daughter, Andrea, but my wife, Allie. Went to this symposium, a 4-day symposium. She was like about 3 weeks shy of giving birth. And you know, we went to this symposium. I had no idea what it was like, well, what it was about, but she asked if I'd go with her. And, you know, at that point in her pregnancy, I wasn't about to say no to anything. And I found myself, and I realized it was like a self-help. It's called Life Success. It's still in existence. And you're trying to pretty much deal with whatever is troubling in your life. And I went in completely naive. They split us up. We went in separate groups, not in my wife's group. And I found myself after day 2 or 3 standing in front of perfect strangers crying my eyes out, it just struck a nerve, because what I found out when they were talking about abuse and stuff, and what young, you know, as a youngster, what things have an effect on you going forward. And after that particular day, I went back, because I'm the youngest of 5 children, and I called my older siblings, my 2 sisters, and asked about, did Dad do this and Dad do that? Now, I knew that my dad created fear in the house. I knew that. I knew that he was abusive to my mom. I never saw him hit her. He was a New York City policeman. I did see him go for his revolver in the drawer and threatening her. I did hear him throw dishes against the wall, saying, you know, he didn't like what she put on the table for him to eat. And I saw some remnants of where he physically abused her. I did come to find out that when he found out she was pregnant with me, after having lost a child before I came into the picture, that he threw her down the steps because he didn't want her to be pregnant anymore or get pregnant anymore. So once I went through this symposium, yeah, was it powerful? Was it emotional? Sure. But it also, Steve, freed me up to realize that now I wasn't born with these things. They were created by what was going on.
The insecurities.
Yeah, all the insecurities and the fear, and everything that was going on as a child growing up. And it sort of, even though it still exists, you know, you still have certain, you know, hesitancies, but at least you know now that what went on as a child is what affected you. So I wanted to talk about it. So when, you know, we went to New York, my wife and I, when she asked me what charity you want to get involved with, and I said, how about domestic violence? And so it caught her off guard because she's one of 16 kids, so a very happy family,
sure.
Mother and father. And so we, and it was her idea, and my older daughter, Christina, who come up with the idea, let's do it through education. Instead of being a care provider, which we still lead people to those websites, we have safe rooms in schools, named after my mom, Margaret's Place.
That's right.
Where kids go into the classroom and have a master's level counselor, and if they want to talk about it, they can talk about it. They have their, you know, other kids in there. Where I thought I was alone and was my fault growing up, you know, these kids are realizing that they're not the only ones going through this.
This event, you know, the Cohen-Resnick folks, the dollars raised in this golf outing, a significant chunk goes to the Safe at Home Foundation, Special Operations, the Warrior Foundation folks. They get a big check as well, and extraordinary story with those folks as well. The children of these great soldiers, these brave soldiers who have lost their lives, they wind up going to college with a lot of these funds. What would you say to those who want to be supportive of the Safe at Home Foundation? What do you say to those folks?
Well, you know, what I would say to the folks is these children belong to all of us. You know, just because
the victims.
Well, the victims, right? And again, children. I was never physically abused, but I was affected.
Clearly.
We need to take care of our youngsters, and we need to let them know that there's something out there for them. Because unless we give them a good education on going forward, they're going to follow whoever the strongest personality is, and it may lead them more times than not in the wrong direction. So it's our responsibility to take care of these youngsters. I'm a believer that we don't have bad kids out there. I think they do bad things. But I think they have to realize that their brains don't fully develop, especially boys, until they're like 25 years old. So we need to stay with them.
Joe is greeting a whole bunch of people inside who have come not just for the outing and not just to raise money, but also to meet Joe. So I have a couple more minutes with him. I want to be sensitive to that. For those folks who follow not just baseball, but marketing and branding, they know that Joe is also the representative, the official spokesperson on many levels for Cohen-Resnick. Let me ask you this. What would you say about this firm?
Well, I was thinking about that on the trip here, and we've been together like 9 years.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. I go into my office and I get on Metro North. You know, and sometimes I sit there looking at myself on the poster on the wall. And
I see you going to Lincoln Tunnel. I see you.
Yeah, and I watch people go like this. You know, and then
That's Joe Torre.
and I'm gone. I know I've got it. But the thing I've noticed about Cohen-Resnick, you know, they've been a quality firm for a long, long time, but it doesn't keep them from wanting to do more and get better and expand. And they're first class. I mean, that when we decided, to work with, Cohen-Resnick. It was based on what the research we did, and it's a high-class operation, and
the charity
work that they do
Well, we're
they're
here today.
very responsible, Steve, for for who they are and what they represent.
Last question, Joe. I would be remiss if I did not ask you. Joe's book on leadership influenced me greatly. It was a bestseller. I want to ask you this: greatest leadership lesson you have learned over the years in life, not just in baseball, is?
Well, trust. Trust. As you manage, and I managed for almost 30 years. You realize that you can employ all the strategy you want, but the players that you're asking to go out there and commit to what you're trying to do and what you're trying to teach is the fact that they have blood running through their veins, and we need to have understanding of each and every one of them. You can't treat them all the same. My goal is you have to treat them all fairly.
Not equally.
Because they're different personalities. So you have to know who you have to sort of boot in the rear end and who you have to pat on the back. And it's important that you know your people, so when that time comes, when the pressure's sort of bearing down on you, that you have to have pretty good indication of who that person is. I mean, David Cone was a good example. I went out to the mound, talked to him, and I say, I thought he was tired. He says, I can get this guy. Well, you know what? He may not have had the wherewithal to get this guy, but knowing David Cone, he was going to find a way to do it. And that's knowing your personnel.
Yeah. Joe, thank you for this interview. And as a Yankee fan, thank you for all the great memories, and thank you for everything you do more importantly, for all the young people and the women who are looking for a safe place. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by PNC Bank, Bergen Community College, United Water, Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, and by Fedway Associates. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.